As Donald Trump continues to freak out about this Manhattan District Attorney criminal case against him for his falsification of business records by making hush money payments to interfere with the results of the 2016 election, Donald Trump is making posts about his ownership of beauty pageants. And Donald Trump is saying what a great owner of beauty pageants he was. Let me give you this headline from The Independent back in 2016. Donald Trump boasted about meeting semi-naked teenagers in beauty pageants. Some were as young as 15, and there's audio recording of Donald Trump bragging about that. And 4 women who competed in the 1997 Miss Teen USA said that Donald Trump walked in on them and said some as young as 15. Here's the post that Donald Trump just made about his ownership of beauty pageants. He goes, "I owned the Miss Universe pageant for 19 years, did very well with it. It sold to IMG at a great profit and ran for president." Talk about a non sequitur. "It was a contest like no other, but now I have one that's even better. Who is the worst, most evil, and most corrupt judge? Would it be Judge Arthur Engoron, Judge Lewis Kaplan, or could it be that my current New York disaster, Judge Juan Merchan, is the worst?" So in a case involving hush money payments to an adult film actress, Donald Trump is bringing up his ownership of beauty pageants. It is very strange, but okay, you want to talk about beauty pageants, Donald Trump? Well, this was the audio recording of you bragging about inspecting semi-naked teenagers and naked teenagers during your ownership, and you talk about this on Howard Stern, and you brag about inspecting girls, young girls, like you were a doctor. Disgusting. Here, play this clip.
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else, and no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is
doctor.
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Here is Samantha Holvey, Miss North Carolina 2006, in an interview that she gave a few years back before the 2016 election, talking about what Donald Trump would do. Play this clip.
Is it normal to see men in dressing rooms at pageants and the owner of a pageant?
No. The director of the North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, and Alabama pageants, it's very much a family atmosphere. She doesn't even go backstage when the girls are getting ready. Only the female chaperones are allowed backstage in the dressing rooms with the girls. I've never had an experience where there were men or directors or anything like that walking back in the dressing rooms.
Yeah. As I understand, there you have an experience of something that happened the night before the pageant?
Well, not the night before the pageant, but when we were in New York City on the media tour, they were doing a book launch at Trump Towers for the Universal Beauty book, and they had a bunch of former Miss USAs and Miss Universes and all 51 of us, and we did the red carpet, and that was tons of fun. And then they lined us all up, and Trump went down the line, and he shook your hand and, looked you over, looked you up and down, head to toe, and was just checking everybody out.
And you thought you felt?
I felt very dirty. It was very creepy. It's kind of like when you're at a bar and a creepy guy is checking you out. That was the experience for me.
Here's Tasha Dixon, Miss Arizona 2001, talking about what Donald Trump would do. Play this clip.
He just came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked.
As Miss Arizona 2001, Tasha Dixon competed in the Miss USA pageant. Donald Trump owned the contest along with Miss Universe and Miss Teen USA for 19 years.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him.
And Dixon has strong opinions about what she thinks were Trump's motivations.
I'm telling you, Donald Trump owned the pageant for the reason to utilize his power to get, around beautiful women.
Dixon, who lives in West Hollywood, was 18 at the time.
Who do you complain to? He owns the pageant. So there's no one to complain to. Everyone there works for him.
The year she competed, the theme was empowering women. And after hearing recent audio of Trump talking about women, she decided to speak out.
I'm Miss Arizona, so I veer more on the conservative side. But I just like to choose what's right.
I want to talk about Miss Universe. Everybody remember Alicia Machado and what Donald Trump said about her, and then remember what happened in the 2016 election. This is back from 1996, 1997, where Donald Trump said that Alicia Machado was heavy or embarrassed her in an interview. But watch what she did in response. Play this clip.
For the first time in the history of the pageant, viewers can actually participate. There'll be a question up, and the viewers can actually call in and vote. Let's bring up the question. It says, should a pageant title holder be required to maintain her physical appearance during her reign? Why do you think this is an important question that the viewers would care about?
Well, it's something that really has come up over the last year, and Alicia has done an incredible job. She really has turned out to be one of the great Miss Universes, I will say. And she had a little problem during the middle where she gained a little weight.
I don't think so.
Yeah, she's probably right.
I don't think so.
Okay. And so...
Well, let's talk about that debate, because it's interesting. The viewers are going to make a decision today, and they're going to vote in one way or the other. Alicia, do you think that should matter? Because after all, you were voted in as being the most beautiful woman in the world.
I am the most beautiful woman in the world.
I certainly don't doubt that.
With 20 pounds or no pounds, I am the most beautiful woman in the world.
Do you not think that it's important to maintain a certain look during that year?
Yes, of course, but I think all women in the world have a problem with the weight.
Right.
And I think maybe I had some problem with this, but I'm fine now, and I think 15 pounds is nothing with 20 years old. And I think the most important for the next Miss Universe, and then is no more dinners, no more lunch, no more breakfast, and no more when you travel, diplomatic dinners and parties.
I think what Donald's talking about, and I think most people agree, that there is a look to Miss Universe.
And more time for go to the gym. It's very important, because when you are Miss Universe, you don't have time for nothing.
Right. Donald, how do you think that this Miss Universe will be different from the others?
Well, I don't know that it's going to be different. We have many beautiful women, and it's actually incredible. I was over there today, and the women are magnificent. And so I don't think it's going to be different. It's going to be more of the same. And
then just to remind you what went down in 2016 with Alicia Machado and Donald Trump, here, play this supercut.
Venezuela, you are
And some people, when they have pressure, don't eat. And some people, when they have pressure, eat too much, like me, but like Alicia. And she had a little problem during the middle where she gained a little weight.
I don't think so.
Yeah, she's probably right.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Donald Trump called you Miss Piggy.
Yes, Miss Piggy, Miss
Housekeeping. How did that make you feel?
So sad.
Congratulations, you're citizens of the United States.
Donald, she has a name.
Where did you find
her
this?
name
Where
is
did you find
Alicia
this?
Machado.
Where did you find
and
it?
she has become a U.S. citizen, and you can bet she's going to vote this November.
Okay, good.
When Donald Trump started making all these xenophobic and hateful statements, there was a boycott of Miss Universe. Here's a video of Donald Trump not showing up to this and the leaders of Miss Universe celebrating that he wasn't going to be there. Play this clip.
We saw that Donald Trump announced on Twitter he would not be here for the pageant tonight. How does that change things for you guys? I knew it was going to be gross. I just knew it was going to be gross. I'm the left. And I'm sorry, something interrupted me. I'm wondering if that changes anything as far as the pageant goes tonight, or as far as the brand of the pageant tonight.
You know, as I said 2 or 3 weeks ago, this pageant is an opportunity to be about the women and the city, and that's what we're focusing on. And you know what? It's good for us that we're just focusing full steam ahead. It hasn't really changed because that's all we've been doing for the last few days. And I know that there's a big campaign going on out west, and we're focusing here in Louisiana.
You'll recall that Donald Trump then had his daughter Ivanka growing up become a model for that guy Casablanca, who Donald Trump was close with. And then when Donald Trump was asked what he had in common with Ivanka, here's what he said about her. Play this clip.
We want to know a little bit more about you guys, so we play this game here. It's called Fave 5. I'll ask the question. Ivanka, you answer first, and then Dad, you answer also. Okay, Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
And by the way, on the campaign trail recently at these traveling fascist circus events that Donald Trump calls rallies, Donald Trump continues to say how much he loves women. He's like, I love women. I love women. It's so creepy and weird. Here, play this clip.
The day, I mean, I don't want to get into it. It's very demeaning to women, and I love women more than I love anything. I love women. But it's very demeaning.
And then before that, recently, Donald Trump says how much women like him. Play this clip.
Then they say women don't like him. I think women like me. I think I've never had a problem. Never had a big problem.
Well, here's a video of Donald Trump speaking about, this is on Howard Stern, a recording from Donald Trump talking about Lindsay Lohan and his views about her. When Donald Trump was saying this, Lindsay Lohan was 18 years old. Play this clip.
What do you think of Lindsay Lohan now? I think she's hot. There's something there, right? Yes. But you have to like freckles. I've seen a close-up of her chest. Yes. And a lot of freckles. Are you into freckles? If the father's a wreck like the way he is, right? You imagine the sex with this troubled? Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed. Back in the day. How come the deeply troubled women? Yes. Deeply troubled. Right. They're always the best in bed. If for some reason what I said is true, I mean, they're just unbelievable. I can tell from the. You don't want to be with them for the long term, but for the short term, there's nothing.
And here's what Donald Trump said about Paris Hilton when she was 12 or 13 years old. Here, play this clip.
Really beautiful is Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton. And I've known Paris Hilton from the time she's 12. She's hot. Her parents are friends of mine, and, the first time I saw her, she walked into the room and said, who the hell is that?
Did you want to bang her?
She is at 12 I wasn't interested. I've never been into that.
Right.
They've sort of always stuck around that 25 category.
But even at 12, you were kind of
no,
like,
but
wow,
I
she's hot.
saw at 12 she was beautiful. But honestly, Paris gets knocked and this and that, but she's very beautiful. Her skin is flawless. She's dumb like a fox.
Have you seen the video, the sex video?
I have seen it.
You did. What'd you do? You went
No,
on the
it
internet?
was just, yeah, just.
How did you see that? What did you do?
Melania showed it to me.
She did?
She showed it to me.
What did you think of that?
I think it's probably unfortunate, and perhaps it made. What is that noise?
That's the tape.
Here's an article from the Guardian from several years back. Teen models, powerful men, and private dinners. When Trump hosted Look of the Year in the early 90s, Donald Trump judged the world's biggest modeling competition. Since hit by allegations of abuse, this is how people who were there remember it. On September 1, 1991, a large private yacht cruised towards the Statue of Liberty. It was a clear, breezy evening, and from the upper deck of the Spirit of New York, a golden sunset could be seen glinting off the Manhattan skyline. Downstairs, a party was in flow. Scores of teenage girls in evening dresses and miniskirts, some as young as 14, danced under disco lights. It could have been a high school prom were it not for the crowd of older men surrounding them. As the evening wore on, some of the men, many old enough to be the girls' fathers or even grandfathers, joined them on the dance floor, pressing themselves against the girls. One balding man in a suit wrapped his arms around two young models, leering into a film camera that was documenting the evening. "Can you get some beautiful women around me, please?" The party aboard the Spirit of New York was one of several events that Donald Trump, then 45, attended with a group of 58 aspiring young models that September. They had traveled from around the world to compete in Elite's Look of the Year competition, and that was run by John Casablancas, who Donald Trump then had Ivanka become a model for Casablancas while that was going on. By the way, here is the clip of Donald Trump at a recent speech that he gave before the Young Republicans of New York. This was his message to the Young Republicans, was that the most courageous thing he's ever done in his life, and he said that a general told this to him as well, he claims, was that when Donald Trump said that when he bragged about sexually assaulting women, that it was locker room talk, that a general said that, look, I've seen people get killed in war, but when you called that locker room talk, sexually abusing women, that was the most heroic act that we've ever seen. That's what Donald Trump's telling the young Republicans. Here, play this clip.
But I went onto that stage just a few days later, and a general who's a fantastic general actually said to me, "Sir, I've been on the battlefield. Men have gone down on my left and on my right. I stood on hills where soldiers were killed. But I believe the bravest thing I've ever seen was the night you went onto that stage with Hillary Clinton after what happened. And then that woman asked you the first question about it. And I said, locker room talk. It's locker room talk. What the hell? What are you talking? Locker room talk." That was not a great...
All right, so Donald Trump, you want to talk about beauty pageants? We can talk about beauty pageants. We'll talk about your history with beauty pageants. Like everything you've touched, utterly depraved, utterly disgusting.
It is Monday, the 15th of April of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English Bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl. And though she is recuperating from knee surgery, you will be seated directly for our especially special daily special, River City Hash Mondays. And yes, it's been a particularly long weekend for us here at the salon that we call West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, in that, well, we had a major software problem towards the end of the week, right while we were doing some production for this show on Thursday. So we weren't able to get one out because crashes were galore. And it didn't just stop with the software here on the mothership's main computer system. No, we also had a problem with my phone that would not connect to either Wi-Fi or cell data. It was maddening. And then, of all the times, right at the moment in which I was about ready to drive out of this driveway. And my mom, of all things, wanted to go to the vet hospital with me to pick up little Precious from her knee surgery because they kept her overnight. And we wanted to get her out. And this is at 3:30 in the afternoon, local time. And there's a bit of a process to get my mom in the car. So I got the visor off the windshield. I like the windscreen. And turned the car on so that I could roll some windows down. Turned it off. Went and got her. Put her in the car. Closed the doors. Went to start the car. Nothing. I went, what? And nothing was working. And then I got an error warning that said something about energy consumption, an overconsumption of energy something. And so I looked that up, and it was a starting issue or a battery issue. So the car, the RAV4 Hybrid, is in the shop, actually the dealership, but the shop at the dealership, and hoping to get it out today. Had to rent a car because I can't be without a vehicle in case of emergencies. That's why it was so disconcerting, because you don't expect it. And I wasn't sure if I could just put a charge on the 12 volt, not really knowing if it was a Toyota approved device to do that. I have roadside service, so I got a tow. They had to put it on a flatbed because it is a hybrid. So let that be known to you out there. Get roadside service because they're going to put it on a flatbed, and that costs if you don't have roadside service. Costs more than just hooking up. Anyway, so got the tow over there. Got a shuttle from the dealership to a rental car place. Got a car to have on hand for over the weekend till tomorrow. And I'm hoping, and the guy at the service department at the Toyota dealership assured me, we'll get it fixed. So I'm hoping it's not the big battery. That's the cost of a used car. Well, nowadays, a cheap used car, but still, a cheap used car is a lot of money. Jeez, I'm not talking about a couple $100 either. I'm talking about thousands for a battery. Or it could be the solenoid on the starter. They still have solenoids on starters. I thought we were past that. Apparently not. Jeez. Okay. You know all of the technology that it takes to have nuclear energy for us to power, like my coffee grinder in the morning. You know what all that does is to steam water, to heat water up, to make it into steam, and then that steam turns a turbine. I always thought, you can cut out the steam part and just turn the turbine with the other stuff. Apparently you can't do that either. I want the dilithium crystals. We need power for a new planet. That's why it makes me so mad that Elon Musk wants to take us back to a planet that we escaped from because it lost its magnetosphere and its atmosphere because it didn't have a magnetosphere. Why would you want to go to a crispy husk of a planet? Jesus. We had to blow ourselves up into space particles, drift in space, and then fall on Earth by luck. Jeez. Is that a conspiracy? I don't know. It could be. It's a theory. And I'm not going to tell you what they call it in cosmic astronomical terms. Okay, panspermia. I know. But when you think about it, it's like how it works. By luck? I don't know. Maybe. Gravitational pulls are powerful things. Literally. Or are they very light? Maybe. Okay, so we're lucky. We're lucky we're here. And this guy wants to take us back to the place we escaped from because you can't live there. God. And this guy's one of the richest people in the world. We must be in purgatory at least. We suffer at others, I don't know, benefit. And enjoyment, too, apparently. Okay, so, we had to do a little bit of a software repair, and I still don't know what's going on in some aspects, but, we're back. Can you tell? Let's hope quality is better or at least as good. And I know things have been running a little hot, so I've got to go back and adjust a little bit. Not from this current or most recent snafu, but from the time that the old Dell crashed. A lot of crashes lately. And we had to rebuild on the fly, getting a broadcaster over on the MacBook. Well, actually, we had the broadcaster on the MacBook, but then we had to get the editing and all the post-production stuff over onto the Mac. Because I wanted to just dedicate it to the broadcast and not gum it up with everything else. But here we are. Oh, boy. So we would not be able to do any of it, though. We would not have been able to get the Mac in the beginning, if not for your help. So thank you, everybody out there, for being concerned and caring. We're not going anywhere, especially during election season. And you know what? It's election season all the time now. We can't ever leave. We're never getting out. And that's a good thing. Because being a powerhouse of resistance, has its own momentum. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other and resist. And how do we resist? Well, we try to vote. Do you notice that we would like to have more U.S. citizens voting, and they want less? And they blame it that, there might be some illegal migrants. They don't call them that. Nice words, but illegals voting. And it always turns out it's them voting for their guy multiple times. Or for their dead parents, or their dead wife, or their dead whomever. They want to be able to claim on their taxes that they voted for a dead person. And then they can blame the migrants for coming here and stealing our refrigerators. And forcing us to use those light bulbs. Why can't we have the old kind? Okay. Outrage. Well, speaking of outrage, since we had such a long opening there, and I thought that was important since it is historic, having a former president actually going to trial. And I love the seediness of this one that finally got through. Not the one where he stole nuke secrets. But the one where it's really an election interference case, but, hush money to a porn star. Okay. Some people like that. Some people think that that's like a badge of honor. Well, okay. Maybe it is. Dishonor. What's on the rest of the menu? Well, Philadelphia becomes the 4th city to ban the nation's largest ghost gun parts dealer, and not a moment too soon. A conservative Utah school board member who questioned a student's gender. Yeah, a girl was playing sports and she questioned her in public on social media. Are you really a girl? Well, she lost her party's nomination for re-election on the school board. Too bad. And California dairy farms are scrambling to guard their herds against the H5N1 bird flu virus. It's migrating, folks. Hasn't jumped to us yet. After the break, we move to the chef's table where Belarus convicted a famous dissident rock band and sentenced its members to correctional labor. Not for being, like a rock band, but for being dissidents. And 3 men stranded on an uninhabited Pacific island survived for more than a week until used palm fronds to spell out help on the beach was spotted by Navy and Coast Guard aviators. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Since we had a particularly long opening clip and a particularly long whatever it is that I do, I call it a morning rant. But wasn't so ranting today, was it? Was it? Anyway, since they were both particularly long, we will forego the usuals and tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and it is by Tom Jackman from the Washington Post. Philadelphia became the fourth city in the United States to successfully sue Polymer 80, the nation's biggest seller of ghost gun parts. The city negotiated a settlement in which the company agreed to stop selling the parts in eastern Pennsylvania, and JSD Supply, a large local distributor, agreed to stop selling the parts statewide. Ghost guns are firearms assembled by individuals without serial numbers on any of the parts. So when they are discovered after a shooting or other crime, they can't be traced to an original purchaser or owner. They are also convenient for convicted felons and others who are legally disqualified from buying guns. Of course, there are people in this country that says no one's should be legally disqualified. No, even crooks and killers. Then they whine about crooks and killers. It's my fault, meaning you and me, the liberal. Well, some companies also sell kits with all the parts and directions needed to make a complete unserialized weapon. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives has estimated that Polymer 80, based in Dayton, Nevada, supplied the parts for more than 88% of the ghost guns recovered by police nationally from 2017 to 2021, though there are nearly 100 manufacturers selling parts or full assembly kits. Philadelphia officials said in their lawsuit filed last year that 87% of the ghost guns recovered there were made with Polymer 80 parts. Philadelphia joins Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and Baltimore as cities that have sued Polymer 80 and landed agreements, or in the district's case, a court injunction to stop the sale of unserialized parts to their constituents. Polymer 80 also agreed to pay Philadelphia $1.3 million, according to the settlement filed in the Philadelphia County Court of Common Pleas. Staff at the weekend desk of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Ash Mondays. a conservative Utah State Board of Education member who faced calls to resign after lawmakers said she bullied a student on social media, lost her nomination for re-election. Natalie Klein needed at least 40% of the delegate votes at the Salt Lake County Republican Convention, but she fell short of that threshold on Saturday. She faced Jordan School District Administrator Amanda Bollinger, who won sufficient support to become the party nominee in that school board race. Unlike Bollinger, Klein did not gather voter signatures, a backdoor path to appear on Utah's primary ballot in June if a candidate does not win their party's nomination. The deadline to collect signatures has passed. Klein had faced backlash from Republicans and Democrats after her social media post questioning the gender of a high school basketball player prompted threats against the girl. Utah Republican Governor Spencer Cox said Klein's actions embarrassed the state. And if you get Spencer Cox to say something like that, it must have been pretty bad. And the legislature formally censured her, but allowed her to stay in office without any real power. Klein announced in late February that she would seek re-election. In a Facebook post before Saturday's vote, Klein said, she has been on call night and day for the last 3+ years, and I have answered those endless cries for help from parents and teachers who are sick to their stomachs with what they are seeing firsthand in their schools, she whined. She said she had done all in my power and more with God. They always bring God into it like that's going to help them. As my helper, see? And the growing army of concerned citizens that is saying enough is enough. And basically, they told Klein, yeah, enough is enough. Of the Los Angeles Times brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Earlier this spring, California dairy farmers noted a puzzling drop in milk production in Texas, New Mexico, Idaho, Ohio, Kansas, and Michigan. Weeks later, news broke that several herds in these states, as well as North Carolina, had been diagnosed with avian influenza, the same strain that has devastated bird populations across the globe and shown a troubling ability to jump to mammals. In an effort to prevent local herds from infection, officials in California and elsewhere have imposed restrictions on cattle imports from the affected states, while the U.S. Department of Agriculture has urged livestock managers to minimize the movement of cattle as much as possible. Although the CDC believes the current risk for the general public is low, the development has left dairy farmers reeling. Never before have U.S. dairy cows been infected with the H5N1 bird flu viruses. Nobody saw this coming, said Michael Payne, a researcher and outreach coordinator at the Western Institute of Food Safety and Security at UC Davis. Scientists and health agencies across the globe have been tracking the spread of the virus for years. Since 2021, it has killed hundreds of millions of farmed poultry and infected more than 48 species of animals, including humans, as well as countless numbers of wild birds. It has also proved especially deadly among some communal mammals, such as elephant seals and sea lions in South America, as well as caged fur-farmed animals in Europe. Nevertheless, outbreaks among dairy cows have come as a rude shock. In addition to the cattle infections, a farm worker in Texas who was in close contact with infected dairy cows also became infected, but experienced only mild symptoms. That was the second known human case in the United States. Despite the mildness of the farm worker's illness, the prospect of continued infections worries some. The concerning trend of multiple states reporting cattle infections raises the likelihood of continued human exposure, said Suresh Kuchipudi, professor and chair of the University of Pittsburgh's Department of Infectious Diseases and Microbiology. This could amplify the risk of further virus adaptation, potentially facilitating human-to-human transmission. Well, we better get out the horse pace then, right? Let's do it. Public health officials, wildlife biologists, and epidemiologists said there are a few reasons why the outbreaks have surprised farmers and officials. First, while there have been sporadic infections of cattle via other flu strains in the past, no other avian flu has ever evolved the ability to pass between cows and other ruminants. This was surprising, Kuchipudi said, totally unprecedented. Okay, great. Well, with that, let us now go to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, not just monkeying around. Dev Patel from Lion, The Green Knight, Hotel Mumbai, and Slumdog Millionaire makes his feature film directorial debut in Monkey Man, a very personal film for him in a couple of ways. One, among the many different types of films that he loves, Patel loves action films and craves to see more of them elevate the genre beyond just visual kinetics, because he also loves films that really speak to his heart. So you can see in Monkey Man him going for a film where the characters physically hit each other very hard, while we the audience are hit hard emotionally. One way Patel goes for this goal is by shooting so much of the movie in tight, close shots, creating a crowded claustrophobia and also an intense intimacy. Seriously, it can feel like you're standing next to these people. Warning though, this close camera moves so much, bobbing and weaving and shaking like your opponent in the ring. For motion sickness sufferers like me, you'll feel this one in a bad way. 2, this film started in Patel's head with one image, a beaten-up man in a rubber monkey mask in a crowd-pummeled boxing ring, ready to fight. Eventually, Patel connected this image to stories from his childhood, stories from the Ramayana of the Hindu monkey warrior god Hanuman. From a little research, I can see how the story of our protagonist, the kid, whom Patel plays, is patterned off of Hanuman's. His strength to the kid's ability to take punishing beatings, his resistance to fire in the kid's scarred, burned hands, his resistance to water in the kid's surviving drowning, Hanuman's punishment by the gods for reaching up to the sun in the kid's attack on high-powered corrupt law enforcement and religious leaders, and, most importantly, Hanuman's loyalty and devotion to Rama in the kid's dedication to his mother whose death he must avenge. So the kid's not just this guy, but an incarnation of a pan-Asian cultural divine warrior hero. These stakes are no joke, and what you're in for when you go to see Monkey Man. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
We're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn.
But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. The IRS has a pilot program in 12 states this year to file your personal taxes online for free without the use of third-party software. Wonder why it took so long? Big money lobbying. For 2023, taxpayers in Arizona, California, Florida, Massachusetts, Nevada, New Hampshire, New York, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming can try the free IRS Direct File, which can help prepare returns and file them online. But Money and Politics tracker Open Secrets reports a coalition of tax preparation companies spent over $90 million since 2003 lobbying Congress and the IRS to keep this from happening. A 2019 ProPublica investigation found that in order to stave off a catastrophic loss of revenue if the IRS launched its own online filing program, tax software makers lobbied to offer their free service called Free File to qualified Americans. While 70% of Americans qualified, this year with a gross income of $79,000 or less, only about 2.2% of Americans actually used it, mostly because they don't know the program exists. One finance research group estimates Americans spent almost $13.9 billion for online tax prep in 2023. We have a link to ProPublica, the pilot IRS Direct File app, and more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1919. That was the day the telephone girls, as they were called, walked out on strike against New England Bell, essentially crippling communications in 5 New England states. It was considered the most massive strike of women workers since the uprising of the 20,000 in 1909. They were members of the all-women National Telephone Operators Department of the IBEW. Historian Stephen Norwood devoted many pages to the strike in his book, Labor's Flaming Youth. The government had taken over the nation's telephone and telegraph industries during World War I and placed it under the control of Postmaster General Albert Burleson. Just days earlier, thousands of angry women who worked in the Boston exchanges packed Faneuil Hall, demanding immediate strike action. Julia O'Connor, the leader of the Telephone Operators Union, called for the strike on this day at 7 a.m. The union demanded a 60% wage increase and full scale to be reached after 4 years instead of 7. Union and non-union alike responded to the strike call and walked off the job, establishing 24-hour picketing. On the second day of the strike, over 1,000 striking telephone operators marched through the streets of Boston and were cheered on by returning soldiers. O'Connor organized picketing around the Boston hotels where out-of-town strikebreakers were housed. Unionized service workers across the city denied services to the scabs. Postmaster Burleson smeared the striking women as unpatriotic and threatened to replace them with returning soldiers. The soldiers, however, sided with the telephone operators. After 5 days, the union won direct bargaining rights and a $4 a week raise. The strike was considered one of the few post-World War I strikes to end in victory. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. We always begin, whether from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 48 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting temperatures much warmer than what we had over the weekend, expecting highs in the mid-60s, and we were considerably cooler than that, actually in the upper 40s, low 50s with quite a bit of rain. And we should be drying out here for the rest of the week with steadily increasing numbers in terms of temperature numbers. And we might like that, indeed. So, we'll be in the mid-60s today. Cloudy early, becoming mostly sunny this afternoon, with winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. A few passing clouds tonight, otherwise generally clear, with lows in the upper 30s, low 40s, winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then sunshine and clouds mixed tomorrow with highs in the mid to upper 60s, winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated high here in our hamlet of Rogue River. The air quality index for the region, though, is in the good range at 19 parts per million, and that daytime UV index has gone into the high range and ticked up to level 7, so do take care. Barometric pressure is rising at 30.3 inches, visibility is at 5 miles, and relative humidity is at 82%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 53 degrees with rain with a wind advisory. Paris is 50 degrees with rain, and it also has a wind advisory, as well as Rome at 75 degrees and sunny with its own high wind advisory. Bagram is 48 and clear. Hong Kong is 75 and mostly cloudy. Tokyo is 63 and partly cloudy. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 58 and partly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 52 degrees and mostly cloudy. Chicago, Illinois is 61 degrees and partly cloudy. And New York, New York is 75 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Of the Associated Press World Desk brings us this first amuse-bouche. here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. Belarusian authorities convicted a famous dissident rock band, designated the band and its 3 members as extremist, and sentencing them to 2 years of correctional labor. It was the latest in a years-long crackdown on dissent that has engulfed this country of 9.5 million people. Nizhik's band members Alexander Ilyin, Serhii Kulsha, and Dmitry Kalyakin were charged with organizing and plotting actions grossly violating public order. Wow. In 2020, when Belarus was rocked by mass protests that erupted after Lukashenko won a 6th term in office in a disputed election, the band released Rules, a song that became the protest anthem. A music video for the song was filmed at one of the demonstrations against the country's authoritarian leader. Lukashenko's government unleashed a brutal crackdown in response to the protests, arresting more than 35,000 people and violently beating thousands more. Many have been labeled as extremists, a designation frequently used against critics. The repressions have continued to this day. In addition to the sentencing, the band and the musicians were also added to the state registry of extremists, which effectively means a ban on its songs and exposes the band's fans to prosecution. The band was founded in 2008 in the city of Mogilev in the east of the country. In January of 2024, Ilyin, Kulsha, and Kalyakin were arrested and initially faced petty charges, but then authorities opened a criminal case against them, and they have been behind bars ever since. Of the Associated Press World Desk brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. 3 men stranded on an uninhabited Pacific island survived for more than a week and used palm fronds to spell out help on the beach, leading to rescue by Navy and Coast Guard aviators who spotted the sign from several thousand feet in the air. They had embarked March 31st in a 20-foot boat with an outboard motor from Pulawat Atoll, a small island with about an estimated 1,000 inhabitants in the Federated States of Micronesia, about 1,800 miles east of the Philippines. The men were fishing when they hit a coral reef, putting a hole in the boat's bottom and causing it to take on water, Lieutenant Keith Arnold said in a Coast Guard video. A Coast Guard ship, the Oliver Henry, picked up the men on Tuesday and took them back to the atoll where they had set out 9 days earlier and 100 miles away, the statement said. They were obviously very excited to be reunited with their families, Christine Igazamar, Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander, said, a coordinator of the search and rescue mission. When their boat was damaged, they knew they were not going to be able to make their return home and that they would need to beach their vessel. On April 6th, a relative reported them missing to a Coast Guard facility in Guam, saying the men in their 40s had not returned from Picolot Atoll. a search initially covering 78,000 square miles. The help sign was pretty visible. We could see it from a couple thousand feet in the air, a rescuer aviator said. A similar rescue of 3 men from Puluwat Atoll happened on Piccolo Atoll in 2020. Those men spelled out SOS on the beach. An Australian military helicopter crew landed and gave them food and water before a Micronesian patrol vessel could pick them up. Well, we always like happy sea stories. And that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. But you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.